Hey guys, here we are on day 7 of our Eat, Play, Love, Live mini challenge. Can't believe how quickly the last 7 days have gone, really. We've covered a lot of ground. And if you have taken part in each one of the challenges up to now, congratulations, well done. A lot of people start things like this and they never really get past an exercise or two. So if you've gotten this far already, well done. It's totally amazing, right? If you haven't now, and I say this as in maybe you've dropped out of a couple of exercises and you've popped back in again now, or maybe you've watched a couple of videos but haven't done the worksheets and haven't answered any of the questions and all that kind of stuff, and it's at this point I'm supposed to give you a bunch of crap and hold up a tape measure and kind of say you better do this because otherwise nothing's going to change for you. Well, look, at the end of the day, if that's been how you've been feeling, like, oh god, I'm holding off, I'm not taking any action, then it's very, very likely that you are falling into the perfectionist trap. Okay, and that's really what this exercise is about. So if you look at the title of this one, it says perfect is the enemy of good, and then I've crossed it out and said love, right? So I'm saying now that perfect is the enemy of love. So we'll get to that in a second. But perhaps you've been told time and time again that perfect is the enemy of good. And it is kind of true. Perfect is the enemy of good on a lot of different levels. Because of perfection, we basically have this ability to destroy all of our possibility and all of our hope and all of our health and all of our happiness. Right? That sounds a little bit kind of heavy-handed, really, when you think of it, right? I'm here saying that perfection destroys all possibility of hope, health, and happiness. So that's quite a big statement. So what do I mean by that? Well, look, because of perfection, we have this tendency to tell ourselves that even our best efforts won't be good enough. So why bloody bother? And because we're saying to ourselves that even our very best efforts won't be good enough, we kind of have this thing where we say, well, we don't start, we're not going to start it. Or if we start it, we're not really going to fully commit to it. Or if we commit to it, we don't really believe that it's going to work. We don't really believe in the outcome. Or if we believe in the outcome, we don't really believe that we can keep it. Or if we don't believe even if we believe we can keep it, even if we get the result that we had always hoped to get, somewhere we don't believe that we're deserving of that. Because of perfection, most of us are playing a kind of a losing game, right? Perfectionism is a losing game on so many different levels. So you think about it, because of perfection, we tend not to go for the things that we want. We tend not to even start the bloody things, right? Perfectionism keeps us playing a losing game. And it's ultimately because in reality, when we really look at it, like if you think of this as territory on a map, the land of perfection is impossible to reach. It's fantasy land. Okay, so you kind of think about it like, somebody has handed you this blueprint and said, go follow this map and you will get to this place. And even before you head off on your journey, you kind of know that it's a non-existent place. You kind of know that you can't really get there. But you keep playing the game as if you're trying to get there. And because you keep playing the game that you're trying to get to the land of perfection, you are always, always, always feeling like you're not coming up to scratch. Because every hill you climb, you look and you go, well, where the hell is perfection land? Where is it? It doesn't seem to be here. And someone says to you, it's just over the next rise. Climb the next mountain and you'll see it. And you climb another mountain and you look and you go, oh crap, still can't see perfection. And this is the journey that goes on and on and on and on and on. And it always makes you feel like you're not really getting anywhere. It always makes you feel like somehow it's you that's not good enough. Like, well, other people must be there. Other people have gotten to this fabled land, because everyone's talking about kind of continuing this journey and keep going and one day we'll make it, right? So it feels to you like you're not getting anywhere. So of course to you it feels like not only is the journey crap, but that you must be crap too, right? So the land of perfection is kind of an impossible place to, not kind of, it is an impossible place to get to. Because I could tell you, even in your wildest dreams, if there's a target weight that you currently want to get to, and you finally get there, you're going to stand on the scales that day, you're going to celebrate for 30 seconds, and then you're going to walk past the mirror and you go, yeah, but if only my hips were a bit smaller, or if only my boobs were a bit bigger, or if only my this was a bit more that, or a bit less this, or a bit more that, or whatever, right? So perfectionism is a fool's game in every possible way you can look at it, right? It's a losing game. The land of perfection is impossible to reach. But the land of great, well, actually, the land of great is, I guess it's great, right? I know that sounds a bit inane, but the land of great, like we can achieve great. We can achieve great results. We can achieve a great relationship. We can feel great about ourselves, right? We're never going to feel that everything's perfect, but we can get to great. But to get to great, you have to pass through the land of good. You have to say, well, actually, this is kind of good. This is all right. This is sort of like good enough. And to get to the land of good, you have to be able to pass through with your map and compass, following this map. You have to be able to pass through the land of okay, of adequate, of average, right? Because it's all just part of the journey of getting to good, and good is the journey of getting to great. And to get there, to get to the land of okay, adequate, or average, you have to be able to pass through the land of below average, the land of inadequate, even the land of poor. And the trouble is, see, perfection won't allow for that, right? Because perfection persuades you that if you are going through the land of inadequate or poor, if you're taking inadequate or a poor action, that somehow it's you that are an inadequate or a poor person. And perfectionism does not want you to visit that place, right? Because perfectionism starts pointing the finger at you and saying, well, you're not enough. You're not good enough. You'll never be enough, right? It's mistaking an inadequate or a poor action as in something that is not getting you exactly what you want, but at least you've taken some bloody action, right? Well, it's persuading you that that is a really, really bad plan. And I'm here to tell you that actually taking an inadequate or even a poor action right at the beginning is better than taking no action whatsoever. It's not great for an ongoing strategy, but what I'm saying is let's look at this journey again. An inadequate or a poor action allows you, if you're paying attention, to immediately say, okay, I did this thing. How did it work? How did it make me feel? What kind of a result did it get? Did it improve the situation? Did it make it worse? So I'm not saying to take an inadequate or a poor action indefinitely. I'm just saying you take an inadequate or a poor action so that you can measure. Right? It's a bit like licking your finger and sticking it up in the air to see which direction the wind is coming from, right? In order to actually start the process of actually making that work, you have to lick your finger in the first place, right? Which is not the kind of, it's not giving you a GPS system version of what way is north and all that kind of stuff. It's just kind of starting the process, right? So if you don't take the inadequate, if you don't take the poor action, you don't get the feedback from life that kind of says, yeah, that's a good one, or that's not such a good one. If you don't do that, you won't even get to the land of average. You won't get to the land of adequate, right? And if you don't get to the land of okay, adequate, or average, you won't get to the land of good. If you don't get to the land of good, you will never get to the land of great. Okay, and it's perfectionism that's keeping you away from that. So for this reason, I'm going to say something that is just about the most judgmental thing you'll ever hear pass from my lips. Seriously, kind of, I'm not a very judgmental person, but this is about the most judgmental thing that you will ever hear me say. Okay, and it's this: perfection is one of the most horrible, unkind, and destructive expectations you can ever have of another human being. Not only that, perfection is one of the most unkind, destructive expectations you can ever have when you apply it to yourself. Okay, it's even kinder than applying it to other people, right? Because on every level you can observe and examine it, perfection is the very opposite of what most of us would call love. So love is really, when you boil down like the ingredients of love, like when you say, I love that person so much, and he loves me, or she loves me, or they love me, I love my children, they love me. When you really examine love at its highest level, love is acceptance, it's connection, and it's care. Right? You feel completely accepted by someone. You feel that the connection with them is amazing, and you feel that they really care for you. And when you say that you love someone else, you say, I accept that person and I want to connect with them and I really care for them. That is what love is: acceptance, connection, and care. Perfection then is the exact opposite of that, because perfection is judgment. Perfection puts distance in there, and perfection also kind of creates a conditionality into our relationships. Like, you'll be good enough when, and you have to do these things before I give you the accolades, before I say that you're enough. Okay? So perfection is the enemy of love. Now, I don't know how you feel about that. I don't know if you even agree with that, right? But I'd love, love, love for you to just take a second here, right? So let's slow things down just for a second. And please trust me, just close your eyes for a second. I hope you're not listening to this in your car. That would be a bad move, right? So I assume that you're at home or you're somewhere safe. Just close your eyes for a second and slow your breathing down. Take 2 or 3 big, deep diaphragmatic breaths. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath for 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4. And hold your breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. And hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4. And hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Continue that breathing and keep your eyes closed. Now, as you're doing so, I want you to think of yourself as a little girl. Okay? Just try and get a picture of yourself as a little girl in your mind's eye. And picture yourself as happy, as joyful, as really connected to life. Like you were still in that stage of life where everything was joyful, everything was fun, right? You felt good about pretty much everything. Yeah, you had your rough and tumble and your scrapes and all that kind of stuff, but life was good, right? So connect to, even if it was only momentarily, if you can picture a point in your life when it was like that. Got it? Okay. Now what I'd like you to do is bring perfectionism into that picture, right? Imagine someone coming along now and saying to you, yeah, you're great, but kind of when you're perfect, you'll be able to do this, or you'd be able to do that. And they're telling you at this stage of your life that you're not perfect. You're not all of those things. Something about your hair isn't right. Something about the way you speak isn't right, or the way you're dressed isn't right. But they hand you this kind of shopping list of all of these things that once you get these things right, once you get these ticks in the boxes, then you'll be perfect. And when you're perfect, then we'll love you even more. Now, how does that make you feel? If you're like most people I've spoken to, even just going through that process, even just as an act of your imagination, you can see how it creates disconnection, right? You can see how that little joyful girl in you has just been told that she's not enough, that she's not good enough, and that the only way to be good enough is to tick a bunch of boxes. How does that make you feel? It doesn't make you feel good, does it? Right? So now keep that slow, deep diaphragmatic breathing. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Keep going. Now picture yourself as that joyful, happy little girl again in that moment. And imagine someone coming along and they're having a conversation with you. Maybe it's even you as you are now, and you're coming along into your former life. And you're saying that absolutely everything that you are, everything that you're doing, everything that you're saying, wow, that's amazing. I love that. I love what you're doing here. That's brilliant. That's fantastic. Wow, aren't you pretty? Wow, aren't you funny? Wow, aren't you smart? Aren't you cute? Can you feel it? Can you feel the difference? Okay, that's not saying that there isn't some other stuff that you might want to be able to accomplish in your life, some bigger purpose, some advancement of ideas of yourself. It's not saying any of those things, but in that moment there, you were accepted. Someone connected with you. Someone showed you some care. They pointed out the amazingness of you in that moment. And how did that feel? Can you see the difference? Acceptance, connection, and care is love. Perfection is holding up a measuring tape that says, hey, you're not quite enough yet. But when you are, then you'll get all the love that you want. And I'm hoping that by going through that exercise, you can see that what you've been doing to yourself, or what a lot of us are doing to ourselves in our life as we move through life, is the absolute antithesis of love. It's the exact opposite. We're being anything but loving. We're being anything but kind. We're being anything but accepting. And this leads to a disconnect, and it leads to a lack of care. Okay, so my invitation out of this exercise here is, remember, kind of, if we go back a couple of exercises back, the truth will set you free, right? And that's been the theme of all of these exercises. Well, I want you to tell the truth again. I'm inviting you to tell the truth, right? As much or as little as you can tolerate right now. Don't push yourself into threat, and don't make this a big thing. Just accept that whatever answers that you're going to give are going to be your best answers for now. And I invite you to carry this sheet around with you for several days and keep topping it up with a little answer here, a little answer there. But you've got a bunch of questions. So we've divided it up, same as we have in previous exercises, to physically, mentally, emotionally, relationally, and spiritually. Right? And so here's some questions. Question number 1 is, how am I chasing perfection in this area? So how am I chasing perfection physically at the moment? What standards am I holding up to physical perfection? How am I chasing that at the moment? How am I chasing it mentally, emotionally? How am I chasing it in my relationships? How am I chasing it spiritually? I know for some people that, kind of in the spiritual sense, I'm mostly Buddhist in my belief system. And when I'm chasing perfection in my belief system, I give myself crap about the times that I get angry, or the times where I feel judgmental, or the times where I'm being kind of less than a devout. But I'm not a devout Buddhist. I eat meat and I drink alcohol and that kind of stuff, right? But kind of I can give myself a lot of crap about not hitting the perfect Buddhist philosophy. That's how I know that I'm chasing perfection, that I'm supposed to live my life almost like a monk. And it's true in the physical areas, and the mental and emotional and relational. How are you chasing perfection in these areas at the moment? The second question asks, what is the cost of perfectionism in this area? Like, what is it costing you? So the cost of perfectionism in my spiritual life, when I see myself not measuring up to kind of my perfect Buddhist standards of how I'm supposed to go through life, is that I downgrade my contribution as a man, as a coach, as a father, as a husband, as a spiritual being, and I kind of start to tell myself that it's not enough and that I should be doing more, and that, wow, I wonder if people knew this about me, would they like me and trust me and believe in me as much as they currently do, right? And likewise, what is the cost of perfectionism in your physical self? Does it mean that you're walking through life kind of, instead of celebrating your body, that you're being mean, not just downgrading it, but you might be actively being mean to it, and that might be knocking your confidence, and maybe you're having less sex as a result because you're scared to kind of get undressed in front of your partner, and you don't really want to be seen, and because you don't want to be seen, you don't get intimate as much. What is the actual cost? Work all the way through physical, mental, emotional, relational, and spiritual. Is it fair to expect perfection here? And what's your answer? I'm not telling you a yes or a no, right? That's kind of, I've got my own feelings about it, and obviously there's a bias in this exercise. The bias is kind of saying that it's not fair to expect perfection, but I don't want you to just have my answer. I want you to have your answer. Is it fair to expect perfection physically? Whatever your answer is, I want you to kind of put some meat on the bones of it. Like, whatever your answer is, explain why you've come up with that answer. Is it fair to expect perfection? Why or why not? Is it fair to expect perfection mentally, emotionally, relationally, spiritually? Is it fair to do that? And what's the reason for your answer? Question 4 is, if I keep on expecting to be perfect in this area, what's the likely outcome? Because if I keep on expecting to be a perfect Buddhist, but I'm not really in a place in my life where I'm ever going to go and become a Buddhist monk, so if I keep on expecting to do that, I'm always going to feel, I guess, in some way, shape or form, that my approach to life isn't quite good enough. That maybe that there's hypocrisy there. Maybe that I'm Maybe that I'm not entitled to have discussions about showing up in the world as a good person, or kind of, measuring your way through life against the good actions that you take, even if they're imperfect. Maybe I'll start to stop. maybe I'll stop doing the things that I see as being living a good life based on Buddhist principles, because I see myself as not being a full Buddhist. Okay, what about the other areas? What about you? What do you think will happen if you keep on expecting to be perfect in that area? Next, what are some specific imperfect actions you can start deliberately taking in this area? Right. So, what do you think? Like, not just kind of allowing yourself to take. Right? I'm saying deliberately take some specific actions. And again, I'm not inviting you to do that just yet. Right? Imagine this is just a game that you never had to do it, but kind of if you had to figure out some deliberately imperfect actions you could take, what would they be? What would be some deliberately imperfect actions you could take, right? So maybe you hold up a perfect exercise session to be that it has to last 30 odd minutes or more, and you have to be lifting X of your body weight and hitting the X heart rate. But what's some deliberately imperfect things you could do physically, mentally, emotionally, relationally, spiritually? What are they? Just identify them. Have fun with this. Like, look for some deliberately imperfect things that you could do. Okay, and next, remember I said that perfect is the enemy of love, right? So I'd like you to answer this. I invite you to answer this. In what way is taking these deliberately imperfect actions an expression of love? I don't want to give you the answers to this. I don't want to even feed in any part of the answer to this. I'd like you to really think about it. How would a deliberately imperfect action, physically, mentally, emotionally, relationally, and spiritually, how would this be an expression of love? Whether it's an expression of love for someone else, whether it's an expression of love to yourself, or both, right? How would it be an expression of love? Okay. And then finally, I'd just like you to, as you discover your kind of big light bulbs or aha moments or takeaways from this exercise, just kind of list them in this bottom section here, kind of write them down and kind of remind yourself what you've learned, what your big takeaways are. I can't stress, I mean, I truly believe that all of the exercises that Leanne and I have taught you across this program have been extremely powerful if you can apply them, right? They're really, really powerful. Remember, the truth will set you free. I truly believe that. It's not just a phrase to me. It's something I believe at the deepest part of my being, that the truth will set us all free. And that doesn't have to come from a religious place. It's just that we won't change anything in our lives until we tell ourselves the truth about something that's happening. Hey, Dax, this part of my life is not working right now, and the approach that I'm taking isn't working right now. Truth just set me free, because it's invited me to say, I wonder what would work. Okay, so if you're not religious and you're not spiritual, that's all fine. You don't have to buy into the truth will set you free from either a religious or a spiritual perspective. Buy into it from a very pragmatic place, that if you tell yourself the truth opens you up to better questions about the directions you could take. So I want to invite you to tell yourself the truth about the big takeaways from this exercise. Okay, I'm not even inviting you to take action just yet. If you want to take action, please do go ahead, right? But at the moment, the action itself here, right, the deliberately imperfect, if you will, right, the deliberately imperfect invitation to you is just play with this. Just write some stuff down, to put some stuff in these little boxes on this little scrap of paper that I invite you to carry around in your pocket or in your bag, and just keep doodling. Keep doodling your answers onto this and see what you come up with. And I would love, love, love to hear what your answers were. I'd love to know what the impact of this exercise has been. Okay, so that's it from me. Take care.